Hi friends. So let's learn today about acids, bases and salts. So question and answer. Question 1. What are acid-base indicators? Acid-base indicators are dyes or mixture of dyes which are used to indicate whether the liquid is acidic or basic, whether it has the presence of acids or bases. What are ions? An ion can be defined as a group of atoms which hold positive or negative charge. For example, H plus is a hydrogen atom that has lost an electron. Therefore, it has a positive charge. Similarly, Na plus is sodium ion with a positive charge. Ca2 plus is a calcium ion with two positive charges. Okay, and Cl minus is a chlorine atom with one negative charge. Such group of atoms are known as ions. What gives substance its acidic nature? The formulation or formation of H plus, that is hydrogen ions which have lost electrons, that positive hydrogen ions, in a solution gives its acidic nature. This solution tastes sour and it turns blue litmus into red. What gives a substance basic nature? The formation of OH minus, one oxygen, one hydrogen with a negative sign. Group of atoms OH with a negative sign, ion. The presence of such ions in a solution gives it its basic nature. The solution tastes bitter and it turns red litmus to blue. Okay. When acid and metal react, what happens? Acid and metal react to give you hydrogen and salt. Okay, we'll see the chemical equations shortly. But any acid reaction with a metal results in the byproduct salt and release of the hydrogen gas. Okay, what is base plus metal give you? When base reacts with metal, we also get hydrogen gas and we also get salt, but this salt has a negative ion composed of metal and oxygen. It is a speciality of the salt. Okay, what happens when acid reacts with metal carbonate and metal hydrogen carbonate? Once an acid reacts with metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate, it gives out salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. Remember, when an acid reacts with a metal, you get hydrogen gas. When a base reacts with a metal, you get hydrogen gas. But when an acid reacts with a metal carbonate, not just metal, metal carbonate or metal hydrocarbonate, you get CO2 gas, carbon dioxide and water with salt. Okay, how can acid or base conduct electricity? Acidic and basic solutions in water conduct electricity because they produce H plus and OH minus ions respectively, and these ions enable the electricity to flow through water. What is pH? pH is a scale to measure the strength of acidity or the strength of basic alkaline strength of a solution. It ranges from 0 to 15. Okay, if a solution is neutral, neither acidic nor basic, it has a pH of 7. If the solution is acidic, then its pH will always be lesser than 7. And as it becomes more and more acidic, the pH will keep on decreasing and moving towards 0. Basic solution has a pH greater than 7. As it increases beyond 7, the basic nature keeps on increasing. 0 is very much acidic, 14 is very much basic. True or false? Mixing acids and bases with water is an exothermic, that is, heat generating process. The statement is true. Acids and bases neutralize each other to form salt and water. True or false? This is also true. What is water of crystallization? See, what happens in crystals is water do not react with the molecule. They just stick around, right? They attach themselves to the molecule to form bigger molecules which then form crystals. Okay, so water crystallization is a fixed number of water molecules present in one formula of the unit salt. For example, if you take copper sulfate crystals, for each copper sulfate molecule there are 5 water molecules which are attached to it. Because of this attachment, they are not reacting, they are just attaching. Because of this attachment, they form copper sulfate crystals. Okay, that is denoted as CuSO4 dot 5H2O because of the attachment, not of the reaction. Give examples of acids. Examples of acids are hydrochloric acid, which is HCl, sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4, nitric acid, which is HNO3, acetic acid, which is CH3COOH. Okay, so you can see C for carbon, H3 for 3 hydrogen atoms, again C for carbon, OO, right? 2 oxygen atoms, H. Okay, CH3COOH. Okay, so this is the formula for acetic acid. Give example of bases. Okay, examples of bases are sodium hydroxide NaOH, calcium hydroxide CaOH2. See, for calcium there are 2 hydroxide ions. So that's why when the CaOH2 is dissolved in water, we'll get Ca2 plus and 2OH minus. Okay. Potassium hydroxide, KOH. Magnesium hydroxide, MgOH2. Here also the hydroxide component OH ion is 2 in number. Ammonium hydroxide, NH4OH. So these are the examples. Give example of the metal reacting with an acid and metal reacting with a base. Okay. Again, this image is taken from NCRT soft copy textbook, and it is a copyright of NCRT only. We are using it here only for educational purposes and not for any commercial purposes, just for information. Okay. Now here you can see the experiment wherein we have a test tube in which there are zinc granules and dilute sulfuric acid is added. Okay. What happens is hydrogen gas is formed because as you know, when acid reacts with a metal, hydrogen gas is formed, and it goes through the tube, delivery tube, into the soap solution, and it comes out as bubbles. Okay. Soap bubbles filled with hydrogen. Now you can use a candle to pop those bubbles, and hydrogen immediately sort of catches small fire because hydrogen is combustible. Okay, so zinc granules plus dilute sulfuric acid H2SO4 react together to give you zinc sulfate ZnSO4 plus hydrogen, and this hydrogen gas is the released when a metal reacts with a acid. Okay, what happens when metal reacts with a base? Instead of H2SO4, if you make the zinc granules react with NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide, which is a base, you'll also get hydrogen gas, but the salt you get is a sodium zincate, right? Which has the sodium plus zinc plus the oxygen O2, okay, sodium zincate plus the hydrogen. Okay, give examples of metal carbonates and acid reacting. Again, we have a test tube, we have dilute hydrochloric acid, and we want metal carbonate to react, so we have put sodium carbonate. Okay, and the gas which comes out, as we know, is carbon dioxide. So whenever a metal carbonate reacts with acid, it gives out carbon dioxide. Remember that. Okay, metal carbonate and acid gives out carbon dioxide. Now, the carbon dioxide is passed through a solution which is having calcium hydroxide as seen in the picture. It will create calcium carbonate because the carbon dioxide and calcium hydroxide will react with each other to form calcium carbonate. So, the first reaction, which is the sodium carbonate reacting with dilute hydrochloric acid, which will give you sodium chloride, the salt, plus water plus carbon dioxide. This is the main equation. And even if you had a sodium hydrocarbonate, that also would react with hydrochloric acid and give you sodium chloride plus water plus carbon dioxide. Now this carbon dioxide, when made to react with calcium hydroxide, it will give you calcium carbonate. How does the acid react with base? Okay, base and acid react with each other, they nullify each other, and salt and water is formed. For example, the base NaOH. Why is it a base? Because it has OH ion with Na ion plus hydrochloric acid. Why is an acid? Because it has H plus hydrogen ion with Cl minus, which is chlorine ion. So these two together react together to give you NaCl, which is the salt, sodium chloride plus water, which is H2O. Okay. How does the acid react with metal oxide? Remember, metal with acid gives you hydrogen. Metal with the metal acid with a metal carbonate gives you carbon dioxide, and Acid with metal oxide gives you water. Okay, I repeat again. Acid with just metal gives you hydrogen. Acid with metal carbonate gives you carbon dioxide. Acid, when reacted with metal oxide, will give you water. Okay, so metal oxide plus acid will give you salt and water. For example, if you take copper oxide and make it react with hydrochloric acid, you will get copper chloride and water. Okay, so remember always, acid plus metal gives you hydrogen, acid plus metal carbonate gives you carbon dioxide, acid plus metal oxide gives you water. Okay, remember that. Why should curd or sour substances not be kept in a brass or copper vessels? The curd or sour substances has acidic nature, because of which it will react with brass and copper. Okay, and when it reacts with brass and copper, we will get some edibles which are not edible. Hence, we should not keep the acidic substance in brass or copper vessels. Which gas is liberated when acid reacts with metal? This we already know. When acid reacts with metal, we get hydrogen. Okay, so answer is hydrogen. Metal compound A reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid and produces a gas that extinguishes a burning candle. Give the balanced chemical equation for this. See, any gas which can extinguish fire is nothing but the carbon dioxide. So we have learned that whenever you react acid with metal carbonate, right, it gives you carbon dioxide. So metal compound A, which reacts with hydrochloric acid, is nothing but the carbonate. So gas that extinguishes the burning candle is CO2, carbon dioxide, which is released when a metal carbonate reacts with hydrochloric acid. So if you take sodium carbonate, Na2CO3, and you react it with hydrochloric acid, HCl, you will get the salt NaCl plus H2O plus CO2. So this CO2, carbon dioxide, is what extinguishes the fire on the burning candle. Can acid produce H plus ions when it is not in a solution in water state? No. H plus ions will be formed by acid only when it is in a solution state in the water. Okay. When you take HCl and make it dissolve it in water, only then HCl will be able to create the H plus ions. If there is no water, the gaseous state of an acid will not create H plus ions. Okay, only when it is dissolved in water will it create H plus ions, and this enables electricity to flow through it. Give examples of acidic ions. Again, image is taken from soft copy of NCERT textbook. The copyright belongs to NCERT only. Here we are using only for informational and educational purposes. See, what we have is a dilute HCl in which we have two nails stuck on a rubber cork, and these two nails are connected to battery with a bulb. Okay, so what happens is, because of the H plus and Cl minus ions, the electricity will flow through the circuit, flow through the dilute HCl, and you can see the bulb turning on. Okay, so H plus is a cation. Okay, why is it called that? Because it is positive and it moves towards the cathode. And any negative ion such as Cl minus is called the anion. Why? Because it is moving towards the anode. Okay. So in HCl you have H plus ion and Cl minus ion. In HNO3 you have H plus ion and NO3 minus ion. In H2SO4 you have two H plus ions and SO4 2 minus. Okay. Remember, you have H2SO4. So the negative charge on the SO4 will be 2 minus. Okay. And in acetic acid CH3COOH, you have CH3COO minus and H plus. Okay. So the cation, which is H plus in all the cases, will move towards the cathode. And the negative, which is the anion, which is Cl minus or NO3 minus or SO4 2 minus, they all move towards the anode. Okay. During the electric flow through the solution of acid in the water. Okay. Note that the cation is positive, move towards the cathode, anion is negative, it moves towards the anode. And because of H plus existence, sometimes this H plus attaches itself to a water molecule H2O and gives us a ion called hydronium ion, wherein we have H3O plus. Okay. How it became H3O plus? This H plus attaches itself. okay, reacts with H2O molecule and it attaches itself and gives it a positive charge and becomes H3O plus. Okay. When you dissolve HCl in water, H2O, you will get many ions which are H3O plus and the H plus which has attached with H2O and Cl minus because from HCl you get H and Cl. Okay, the Cl is the negative ion. Okay, give an example of base ions. So when you take sodium hydroxide and dissolve it in water, you'll get sodium which is plus and hydroxide ion OH minus which is the negative ion. Similarly, when you take potassium hydroxide, you will get potassium plus and hydroxide OH minus ions. Similarly, when you dissolve magnesium hydroxide, that is MgOH2 plus, MgOH2 in water, you will get Mg2 plus ions and 2 OH minus ions. Okay. What is alkali? See, alkali is a base that dissolves in water. Okay. Just for your information, all bases do not dissolve in water. Only some bases dissolve in water, and the bases which dissolve in water are called alkali. What is neutralization reaction? All acids which have H plus ions and all bases which have hydroxide or OH minus ions, when they react with each other, they will give you salt and water. This is a neutralization reaction. So acid plus base is equal to salt plus water. For example, any kind of an acid can be represented as HX. For example, it could be HCl or H2SO4 or whatever, H plus something. And any hydroxide, metal hydroxide can be represented as MOH, right? For example, NaOH, CaOH and stuff like that. So when these two acid and base reacts, the X and the M together will join and give you a salt, okay? And the H and the OH, H plus and OH minus will react together and will give you the H2O. So acid plus base is equal to salt plus water. Why do HCl, HNO3, etc. show acidic characters in aqueous solutions, while the solution of compounds like alcohol, glucose do not show acidic character? See, HCl and HNO3 show acidic characteristics because when dissolved in water, they give H plus ions. Okay, H plus Cl minus, H plus NO3 minus. So they give H plus ions. Whereas alcohol and glucose do not give these H plus ions. That's why they are not acidic. Why does an aqueous solution of acid conduct electricity? Because when an acid like HCl is dissolved in water, it becomes H plus and Cl minus. These ions enable the flow of electricity because the H plus ions move towards the cathode terminal and Cl minus move towards the anode terminal. Why does HCl, dry HCl gas, not change the color of dry litmus paper? See, the key point here is dry because there is no water, right? Dry HCl does not have water to form H plus ions to become acidic. If it doesn't have water, it cannot form H plus ions. If it cannot form H plus ions, it cannot become acidic. Hence, it cannot change the color of dry litmus. When diluting an acid, why is it recommended that acid should be added to water and not water to acid? See, mixing acid and water is highly exothermic, that is heat generating. If water is added to acid, due to the heat, the water might become water vapor and it might form bubble and the bubble might splash out with acid causing harm. Okay, so when diluting acid, you should never add water to acid. You should add acid very, very slowly to water while diluting. How is the concentration of hydronium ions affected when a solution of acid is diluted? See, when a solution of acid is diluted, the more water molecules will be added, right? So there will be less H plus ions to form hydronium ions. Okay, so upon dilution, the concentration of H3O plus ions decreases because there will be more and more number of H2O, that is water molecules, when compared to H3O plus ions. So the concentration decreases. How is the concentration of ions OH minus affected when excess base is dissolved? See, the base is made up of OH minus only. OH minus is what gives a solution its basic qualities, right? And when more and more sodium hydroxide you dissolve in water, the more and more ions you will create, so that will make the solution more and more basic. So upon excessive more dissolving of sodium hydroxide, the concentration of OH ions increases. What is the pH range suitable for human body? See, our body works within a range of 7.0 to 7.8. So it must be very close to neutral. Otherwise, our body has a problem. Why does stomach burn when we consume a lot of food? Our stomach produces hydrochloric acid for digesting the food. Okay, too much of food causes extra HCl generation, which makes our stomach burn. Okay, we take bases called antacids to nullify this. Okay, the tablets we take to nullify this stomach burning sensation, yeah, will have base in them. Okay, will have compounds which have base qualities, so they will nullify this burning. What causes tooth decay? See, leftover food after eating turns acidic because of the bacteria in the mouth. Because it becomes acidic, pH falls below 5.5. Okay, when this happens, this acid reacts with the tooth, which is made up of calcium hydroxypatite. Okay, and because of this, there will be corrosion and tooth causing tooth decay. Okay, so we must brush the teeth regularly and especially after food. You have two solutions, A and B. pH of a solution A is 6 and pH of solution B is 8. Which solution has more hydrogen ion concentration and which of this is acidic and which of this is basic? See, the solution A, which has a pH of 6, has a pH less than 7, therefore it is acidic. And the B, which has a pH of 8, has a pH greater than 7, so it is basic. Okay, solution A has more H plus hydrogen ion concentration, which gives its acidic nature, and solution B has more OH hydroxide ion, OH minus concentration, which makes it basic. Okay. What effect does concentration of HQ plus ions have on nature of the solution? Okay. The more the HQ ions in the solution, the more acidic the solution is. Do basic solutions also have H plus aqua ions? If yes, then why are they these basic? No, the basic solution has OH minus ions. It does not have H plus ions. It has OH minus, the hydroxide ions. That's why the aqueous solution which have these bases are basic. That's what makes it basic. Under what soil condition do you think a farmer would treat his soil with a quick lime, calcium oxide or slaked lime, calcium hydroxide? See, if the soil is acidic, then its pH is less than 7. Okay, treating such acidic soil with calcium oxide or calcium hydroxide will result in salt and water. Remember, acid plus metal oxide or metal hydroxide equal to salt and water. Okay, so this will nullify the acidity of the soil. Okay, acidic effect